Hey everyone, I'm Jeanette Mulvey, the editor-in-chief of CO by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Welcome back to CO's Roadmap for Rebuilding, our series aimed at helping you recover and grow your business. Thank you so much for joining me today. So today we're talking about marketing and protecting your brand. We'll share strategies for how you can define your audience and build a cutting-edge marketing plan, and then later we'll discuss how you can legally protect that brand. As we go along, you can answer our poll questions and you can ask the speakers questions of your own using the box on the right-hand side of your screen. Before we get started, I want to thank our event sponsor, Staples Connect, and our supporting sponsors, ADP, FedEx, MetLife, and Square. We appreciate your partnership in this series. We will start today's discussion with a conversation on defining your target audience and building your marketing plan. I want to welcome our panelists. We have Brant Caraberis, the Director of Media for Staples U.S. Retail, and we have two small business owners here to share their perspectives. We have Melissa Boloña, the founder and CEO of Beauty and the Broth, and Dionna Dorsey, designer of the District of Clothing brand. So thank you to the three of you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It's great to be here today.
Brant, I am going to start with you. So let's just talk about why it is important for a business to put a lot of effort into defining who their audience is as part of the process of developing a brand.
Yeah, it's an incredibly important piece. So, right, all great marketing starts with putting your customer front and center. It's critical to understand the key customer groups that are going to benefit most from your business and ensure you speak directly to them. By understanding their needs, mindset, and behavior, you can more directly establish a connection and communicate how your business will make their lives better. If you start with telling yourself, well, my business is for everyone, you're probably setting yourself up for a tougher road in terms of unlocking the specific value your audience will find in your business and how to bring them along in your journey.
So we're saying, okay, you need to define your audience, but I mean, that sounds great, but I'm not really sure that people know exactly what that means or how to go about doing this. Can you talk a little bit more about the specific work that goes into that and the concrete steps that a business owner and even someone just starting out would take to determine who their customers are and what they're looking for from your business?
Sure thing, Jeanette. So I think, whether you're starting today or you've been in business for a while, audience is incredibly important and really critical to keep an eye on and continue to evolve, right? As the market changes, you need to be there for your customers. So when I think about identifying your audience, I have three kind of places I would focus my time on. One is a really deep reflection of your business and really documenting that. Two, sketching out your ideal customer, right? Who's going to be that number one advocate that's going to talk and promote your business? And three, a series of data collection and observation, right? So if we go back to the reflection on your business, we really want to think about what are the essential value props you need your customers to know about your business. You really want to dig deep and be very specific about how you are positively impacting their lives and how you can showcase that to ensure they come along with you. You really want to position that against how other companies might be speaking to them or even some of your competitors, but really think about how you can stand and what are the things you want to bring to life. After you look inside, you really want to turn outward. And I really think about sketching that ideal customer. Who's the person or group of people that are really going to benefit the most from your business? Push yourself to identify the characteristics of a person that's going to experience your business and go tell 10 of their friends, right? You really want to build that advocation and identify who that type of person might be. What do they do? Where do they live? What are they most passionate about? Maybe even what they're watching on Netflix, right? This illustration of your ideal customer will help you craft the best way to connect and marry their passions with the ways you can help improve their lives with your business. So you've got your value prop, your sketch of the ideal customer, and now you really want to observe and collect data, right? So you want to see how your customers are actually behaving and regularly reviewing whatever information you may have out there. So that might be anything from transactional data, right? What are they buying? Customer support feedback, right? What is your team hearing back from the world about your business? Social media comments, right? There's all these different places where you can mine and collect data about how your customers are seeing and interacting with your business. It's really important to collect these inputs to build up that ideal audience persona. And then that enables you to deploy and connect really deeply and truly to build a strong and lasting relationship.
So you mentioned social media as one of the places that you can collect, data and see how your customers are behaving and interacting with you. Let's just talk more about that idea of like these channels where you're going to reach your customers. So social media is one, but can you talk about like the other connection points that businesses have with their customers?
Yeah, sure, Jeanette. So yeah, very common question is kind of, right, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of customer touch points. Where to really begin? And part of it's going to be what we've been chatting about in the brief beginning of this call, right? It's all about the customer, right? So we really want to think about where they're spending time and go meet them there. When I think about where to begin or where maybe to put some initial energy, the two places that typically come to mind are around the search marketing channel as well as the social media channel. And I think these two areas really give you a good mix of audience and content building with an opportunity to dabble in some things like paid amplification, right? Do you want to really accelerate your reach with some of these audiences? And some of the big platforms, whether we're talking about a Google on the search side or Facebook on the social side, really have great tools that are great for the small businesses and can really help you test into these areas and figure out what works for you. I really think that word I just briefly mentioned around testing is incredibly important about all these channels and anything that you put into market. You really want to think about what you're putting out there and how is your customer base responding. What I think is really unique about social media in particular is our customer attention continues to gravitate towards these platforms, right? And new platforms seem to come up every day. But what's really great about all these platforms is they present unique opportunities to engage and create content. And I think that's a really strong and important piece about understanding our audience and understanding the value your business can bring to your customers. It's really important to find those advocates and have that one-on-one communication. And social media is a really great place to enable that and bring people closer together and have them understand where you're coming from a business.
So I think that a lot of, businesses are definitely using social media, but I think a lot of businesses may not know whether they should be using every social media channel or they should be focusing their efforts on one or two. Do you have any advice for how to figure out where you should be putting most of your energy when it comes to social media?
Sure. So I think, another great question. So there's many platforms out there. I'll do it one more time. I'll mention the customer again, right? We really want to think about where we believe our customers are spending time and then go follow them there. As I briefly alluded to, what's so great about all the different social platforms is they can play different roles in your marketing channel, but I don't think it's a great idea to try to get out and cross all of them, right? And particularly when you're thinking about platform selection, I want you yourself to reflect on how familiar you are with the platform, right? So I think it's really important to be a practitioner of social media as well, to understand how the platforms work, how customers may engage there, right? It's very different, even Facebook to Instagram to, right, a new buzzword like TikTok, right? You may hear a lot of people talking about TikTok, but just because you've heard about it doesn't mean it might be the best place for your business. It doesn't mean it's not the right place, but I encourage you to think about your audience. Think about the types of content you might be publishing there and how does that align with your business. So I would really think about that customer piece. How familiar are you with the platform? What time have you spent there? And then really think about quality, right? So if you can put quality content out on those platforms, you can do a better job at connecting and then think about expanding beyond. But really, I think it's important to get really strong about producing content and developing a strong conversation with your customers on one or two of those platforms.
Right. Great. Thank you. So I'm going to come back to you in a bit, Brant. I'm going to go to Melissa now. Melissa, you're a small business owner, so welcome. Tell us first about what your business does. You're in a pretty niche market, and I'd like to know what your business does, and then just how you determine who your target audience is and how that impacts your marketing strategy.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me. So our business is a bone broth company. We're very unique in the sense that we are a bone broth concentrate, so we just cook most of the water out of it. And this falls along with who my target market is. It's very convenient, single serve, shelf stable, no preservatives, all USDA organic, very clean ingredients where you recognize every single one. And the integrity of our product plays into who our target market is. It's pretty apparent we're obviously going to get all of the traditional bone broth customers, that are very much into health and wellness out of New York, LA, Miami, or wherever in the world they are. But something that I found unique was that I am my own customer, and I created this business. I was not someone that was super into health and wellness, but was on the go and had really bad digestive issues and have tried every beauty product. So that kind of gave me hints into who our target market is. People who view bone broth and they might think it's some sort of fad or trend, but then, through doing more research and the more information that comes out on the gut, someone who wants to try to implement something into their routine to potentially feel better or reap some of the benefits from collagen. So I took myself and what I do on a daily day, and I see my customers every day when I go to work out, when I'm in meetings. So I started by obviously doing a bunch of surveys, looking at who follows my competitors. And I kind of went that route. I realized that people in their early 20s, health isn't really number one on their mind right now. And I started following my journey as a 31-year-old and saying, okay, when did I really start caring about this? And it came to me in my late 20s. And, I speak to women of all ages and men. And, so I kind of defined my age for the audience there. I'm like, okay, 25 to 50 and people on the go, professionals. So from there, since launch, I started to really track where our sales were coming from. And as I mentioned, I started to get the regular bone broth customers, but then I started to see a lot of sales in the Midwest. So I started to kind of focus in there more and see what these customers are doing, learning their professions, learning what they like on social media. And the more specific you could get, the more successful you will be. Just finding exactly your customers' behavior, their likes and dislikes, and what they do like about your product and communicating with them.
That's great. That's so you know your customer because you are your customer. That's really interesting. So Dionna, welcome. Dionna, District of Clothing is a lifestyle brand that sells clothing and accessories. So tell me a little bit about how you connect your brand with your customer base and how that strategy has changed over the past year.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. I'm excited to be here. District of Clothing, our customer base, I like to refer to them as a community, but our community is full of, belief-driven people. And so the majority of the items from the clothing line have positive messaging. They might say dream or do, or they might say do not touch the artwork, trust Black women, victorious. And so it was a very natural connection initially for folks who connected with whatever the message might be. They wanted to wear it because it reflected how they felt on the inside or something that they wanted to share. And I think that is initially how the connection was made with our customers community. Since the pandemic happened, the focus has been a lot more on just what we're all going through day to day. Initially, I wanted to be a source of correct information. And if you can remember back to a year ago, a little bit longer than a year ago, the hashtags were flatten the curve or even just something as simple as wash your hands. So I was reposting lots of that material on social media. And it eventually moved to, just trying to be reflective of what everyone else is going through and also trying to be a source of happiness. So there might be some repurposed posts about, why is it just 2 people in my house, but there's laundry in here for 10 people, no one's leaving. And I think that's really just sort of connected with our community, just trying to be a true source that reflects humanity at this time.
Yeah. Thank you. So we're going to come back to you in a minute, and we'll talk more about your social media strategy. Melissa, let's talk with you about social media. Do you have one particular platform that works for your company more than others?
So this is a bit of a loaded question. I happen to love Instagram and think it's great for my product. One, you could really get great data to where your customer is, the ratio male female, the age range, and you could get really, really specific. And I also love their new feature of Instagram Reels. where your company and great content could really take off organically from their algorithm and promoting Instagram Reels. Whereas I feel TikTok personally is a very young demographic for my product. As I mentioned, it's a health product, and I think that my customers kind of start to focus this on my product toward their mid to late 20s. And I've seen a lot of companies get success off of things like Pinterest. So it depends, I think, on what your product is and what kind of content you're producing. But I do think to start that Instagram is a very powerful platform.
Thank you. So Dionna, same question for you. Do you find that there's one particular social media platform that's better for you than others?
I think yes, and it would definitely be Instagram for me as well. I first started off on Instagram. If you can remember 5-6 years ago, Instagram was still fairly new. The first folks that I had wearing District of Clothing were on Instagram. They were new. I guess, they jumped to the platform newer or sooner than other folks. And that's what really helped spread District of Clothing. I also will say that Twitter can be really very helpful and make things go viral much faster than Instagram at times.
Yeah. What about no TikTok for you, either one of you?
I'm 40. I'll be 41 in a couple of weeks. And it is like, no, I've tried it. It's just it's tough. But I do enjoy repurposing that content. It's very helpful for when I honestly don't have something to post on Instagram. I can repurpose something from TikTok. That's great.
Right. That's great. I'm going to do, before we go to the audience Q&A, which is going to be soon, I'm going to ask Brant this question, but I think we'll probably get to this with both of you as well. There's just a lot of, we talk about TikTok, right? There's new strategies, there's new opportunities, there's new social media channels, all of these emerging all of the time. So do you, Brant, have advice for, do you try to keep up with all of these things, or do you just kind of develop a marketing plan and stick with it? What's the best strategy there?
Yeah, so certainly a lot of information out there. And personally, I think this is really where real community comes really powerful. So I think there's a lot of publications, a lot of experts you could follow. You could jump on Twitter and follow along. But I really think it's right. It's events like today, right? It's building a community of trusted peers, trusted business partners to help learn from and experience. I think hearing the firsthand comments are what make you think a little differently and help you think about how to go to market, whether it's the national chamber like today, it might be your local chamber. As part of our Staples Connect brand, what we've really been focusing on is connecting with our local communities around our stores with things like Community Business Directory to help facilitate that discussion. And I think it's those discussions peer-to-peer that can be really powerful and insightful. That, again, a lot of those, right, your peers know what you're going through. They know the challenges of running, managing, trying to juggle all these things. And I think they could help you focus and give really good practical advice that might go a lot further than, again, following a tweet that mentions TikTok or Instagram. I think it's that firsthand advice and experience that can go a long way.
Right. Okay, great. So I think we're going to go to the audience Q&A in a second. But first, we are going to do a live poll. So let's see. These are fun. Let's ask the audience in 1 or 2 words, what quality makes your business unique? So audience, you can go ahead and do that now. As we know, knowing this is sort of the key to knowing who your customer is and developing your marketing plan. So service and customer service essentially being the same thing are clearly the big winners here. I love this person put me. I think more than one person must have put that if it's that big. So that's actually an interesting perspective and actually makes sense, right? I mean, you are the person who makes your business unique to all the others. Compassion, honesty, personal connection, diversity, being authentic, dedicated to customers. So I think that these are some interesting answers. And I think it's interesting that so many of these are personal and not just about like selling a product or a service, right? They're really about qualities like honesty and integrity. So thank you to the audience for that. We'll do another poll later. So we're going to start with the audience Q&A, and I am going to scroll through here. I'm going to come to Dionna first. This person says, when it comes to social media marketing, how many platforms do you recommend? I know you said you're not big into TikTok, but how many platforms are you on?
We are on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and I am on TikTok. I just don't use it well. And so I think what's important is that you have to meet your customer where they are. You have to meet your community where they are, and you also have to know what's best in whichever way to also represent your product or your service that you're selling. I have a creative direction business, and that's not really on anything, but we have a website so that people can see. That's also really important that you keep your website up to date. And I think, lastly, it is important that you have a way to always know where your customers are talking, or your community are talking about your product as well. So I'm not on Medium, but I see people talking about District of Clothing on Medium. I don't use Twitter very much, but I see people talking about District of Clothing on Twitter. So I always make sure I have ways to access that content and to access those people as well, to thank them, to reshare, and to repost it at some point.
Right, great. Melissa, this question was specifically asked of you. As a new company, you have partnered with other brands, including workout studios and doctors in the beauty space. How do these partnerships impact your marketing strategy?
These partnerships are absolutely huge. And, to me, the worst case scenario asking to partner with these workout studios or brands is you don't get an answer or a no. But for my business, cross promotion has been absolutely huge. And if two companies or individuals have the same customers, why wouldn't you host a positive event or giveaway so that people, especially, two wellness products that can improve people's lives, or fitness activity that can improve people's lives, why wouldn't you cross promote? That's been a huge outlet that's really helped our marketing strategy to grow quickly, and it's something we incorporate in our plan every month. And I saw a question earlier about emails that I would like to touch upon, because email marketing has been our number one source of sales for our business. Obviously, you don't want to reach out too much, but I think at least an email a week, and it doesn't just have to be pushing your brand. It could be something thoughtful, about a holiday, or a way you could use your brand to your customers. And email marketing, I think, goes a really long way, and it's arguably more important than any social channel.
Sure, thank you. Brant, this one's for you. This person's sort of asking about the difference between marketing and public relations. So, just how do you think about that? Even at Staples, how do you think about the difference between marketing and public relations, and how should a small business think about that?
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think they're very closely aligned, right? So I think a marketing plan is really thinking about how you're going to organize those audiences we talked about up front. What are the different ways we're going to reach them? And really a component of that is a public relations strategy or plan. So I think the public relations strategy is one approach to getting that message out through those means and channels. And right, we're thinking more earned media, right? Reaching out to leading publications, getting your voice heard, right? More from that news perspective. But it's really still rooted in those marketing messages you want to bring to life. So I think they work very closely together, but have their own unique pieces of how we go to market.
Thank you. Dionna, I want to ask you this question about using social media. How do you respond to current events in your approach to social media? I know this is very important to you, and you had a very specific strategy for that. And also, though, your product and brand are very much tied into what's happening in the world and evolving as a result of that. Can you just talk about that concept of how you were thinking about promoting yourself throughout the year?
Sure. I think it is imperative that artists and art reflect the time. I think it's imperative that artists and art reflect truths that are happening in our society. And as a product maker, if you will, I'm a designer, but I make products. I think it's really important that my products reflect what's happening. That's also a great way to sort of connect with my community, and also to broaden the community. It's also a wonderful way to get press. And that wasn't the initial intention, but it's been made very clear over the last couple of years that it's a wonderful way to get press. I also think that what's great for business is what's great for, humankind and for the planet. And so with everything that District of Clothing does, we want to encourage progression, we want to inspire action, and we want to support self-love. So all of our products reflect that. All of our social media content reflects that in one way or another. And I think that's what allows people to both sense the humanity in District of Clothing. And I think it's what allows them to continue connecting with it as we continue moving forward. 2020 was, there's not a word to describe what 2020 was, right? But if people could find some sort of sense of humanity or a connection to wearing a shirt that says, trust Black women on their Zooms when they can't necessarily say how they feel during a Zoom meeting with 100 people, if you're at work, but you can show how you feel. It's a wonderful arm and a tool that you can use to show, your activist side.
Thank you. We are one more question, sorry, from Melissa, and then we're going to ask Brant one more before we let him go. Melissa, about email marketing, just people like specifics in these events. Can you tell us how frequently you connect with your customers using email?
Sure. So using email, we connect with our customers at least once or twice a week. We like to attach informative blogs on our emails. We like to attach future partnerships or events we're going to be having, or we like to attach recipes that we love making with our broth. And as far as communicating with your customer, especially if you are a small business, you should be reaching out to every single one of your customers for feedback, because who does not want to improve their product and improve their customer experience? So as soon as I see one of our boxes is delivered, I will personally reach out to every customer to ensure that they're happy and get some feedback on our product and hopefully get a review.
That's great. Thank you. Brant, one more for you before we let you go. If you had one piece of advice right now for a small business of they could only ask their customer one question, what question should they be asking their customer to get a read on how they're doing?
Yeah, I think it really goes back to what your business is helping them excel at in life. And I think it's unlocking that kind of intangible, really deep down thing that allows you to figure out if you're connecting right and how you can help transform and bring them along with your business. So I really think it's about how is your business impacting their life and how does that translate into your marketing plan.
That's great. Thank you. I know I sprung that question on you unexpectedly, so that was a good answer. Thank you so much for your time today. We're going to shift the conversation to protecting your brand. So I just want to say goodbye and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
Thanks.
Hi, Brant.
Melissa and Dionna are going to stay with us. So we are going to shift gears now, and we are going to talk about protecting the brand that you've worked so hard to build. I'm going to welcome Michelle Murphy. Michelle is the owner of Wilson Murphy Law, as well as the owner of CEO LegalSoft. She works with small businesses thinking about brand protection, and she's here to share her insights with us. So hi, Michelle.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. I'm excited about this conversation. It's important. So we're talking specifically about trademark. So can you just give us the 101 on trademark protection? What does that mean, and how is that different than, let's say, a copyright?
So trademarks are source identifiers, and that basically means that when you see something in the store, you're purchasing it based on a name, a logo, maybe their packaging, maybe the color, like the Tiffany box. And so that's the basic definition of a trademark. And so how that's much different from a copyright is the copyright is actually protecting any of your content. So if you wrote a book, that would be a copyright. If you had a painting or you had some choreography that you created, that's all going to be under the copyright portion of intellectual property. And then, since we're talking about it, patents are another string of the intellectual property concept, I guess. And patents are basically just inventions.
Great. So let's focus specifically on trademarks today, since we're talking about building a brand, and that's where the trademark would come in. So if I'm a small business owner, this seems very overwhelming to me. So tell me, how do I start the process of trademarking my brand, and when do I start that process?
So first, you're going to want to do a basic trademark search, and that's you going on Google. You can go on social media networks just to see what's out there. You can also search for what domain names are out there if they're similar to your domain name. And then also go to TESS, TESS 2.uspto.gov, and you can search their database for all of the trademarks that have been filed, registered, or trademarks that are considered dead or abandoned. And you can see, again, what's out there, if there's something that's similar to your trademark. And then you asked me another question and I forgot what it was.
When in the process?
When. So you can start before you even launch your business. And a lot of companies do that. Bigger companies do that, and smaller ones too. So say that you are just starting to talk about the brand on social media, but you don't want someone coming in and trying to file the trademark first. You can file your trademark application. It's called an intent to use application. And that means that your trademark is just going to be held until you actually launch your product or your service so that customers can purchase.
That's great. So if you are a small business owner and you find that someone is using your trademarked brand or logo or name, what is the first thing that you should do?
So if you find somebody using your trademark, you can reach out to them and ask them, let them know, hey, you're using my trademark. I consider this a trademark in my brand. Can you stop using it? If that doesn't work, then you should probably start doing the trademark process, filing your application. And from there, you can send, once you get your actual registration, you'll have a little bit more leverage to send a cease and desist letter and get, whatever needs to be taken down. You can also reach out, if you have your registered trademark, you'll be able to reach out to the social media platforms, and they'll be able to take it down if you can show proof that you have a registered trademark.
So that is good advice. If you have trademarked, what kind of documents should you be holding on? How do you prove that you were using this first?
So I always have my clients, especially if they're on Instagram or Facebook, or Twitter too, they have dates that you've posted. So I always recommend that. And then also if you have invoices showing that you've been selling your products, then again, they usually have dates on them, and your trademark usually is at the top of your invoice. Then also recommend holding on to that type of stuff.
That's very good. I wouldn't have even thought of that. Thank you. Are two questions, I guess. Are there size regulations? Does it matter how big your company is? And also, if you think you're just going to stay local, you're only going to do business in your own little town, does it matter? Do you need to trademark?
So there is no size regulation. If you're a team of one, you can register your trademark. Yeah. And then regarding locality, if you are only going to stay in your city, then you cannot technically have file a trademark application because your trademark has to be in commerce, and in commerce means that it's cross state lines. So either somebody in another state has purchased your product, or you do business in other states, or people from other states come to your business. So I guess it kind of depends. So if you're like a restaurant, in commerce means that someone if you're in Missouri and your customers in California, technically that's in commerce. So if you do plan on staying local, but you have customers from other states, then again, you can register your trademark. And I do recommend, when you can, to register the trademark.
Right. And so even if you're just doing, if you are selling via e-commerce, that would be in commerce, right?
Yes, correct.
That's great. Okay. So thank you, Michelle. We will be back to you. Melissa, let's just talk about your brand. Is it trademarked? I assume it is. And how was that process for you?
Yes, so my brand is trademarked, and a lot of the stuff, being a small business owner and you only have so many resources and access to capital, a lot of things I did myself, such as the LLC formation, sales tax registration, or registering my business in the state of operation. But for me, trademarking was something I did not want to mess around with. I found a very affordable lawyer, and it was a very interesting process. And Michelle could obviously speak to this, where you can't physically register your trademark until you're physically selling, your product is for sale. So you could file an intent for use, which you should absolutely file. And you will get the trademark when people most associate the name of your brand with you and your product. So there's different categories you could file it to. So for instance, we filed in the beauty sector as well as the soup sector. Because you have to really think about where you want your company to go and how you think you'll be using it. I would rather cheaply file for a few categories than not, just to cover your bases. And there's I forget how long, once again, Michelle could probably speak better to this. I think you have at least 2 years to use it, and then you could file an extension. So that was one of the first things I did when I knew I was going to start this company.
Great. Thank you. Dionna, same question for you. Can you talk about the trademark process and what that was like for you?
Yes, I can. I definitely waited too long to trademark District of Clothing. I have our logo and brand, District of Clothing, trademark, but I'm actually going through some challenges with trying to trademark other portions of the brand. And I can't get into too much of that there, but I highly recommend anyone and everyone listening that you take these steps that Michelle has mentioned, and that you seek help from whomever you can as soon as possible, so you don't have to go through what I'm going through at this time.
Right. So that's interesting that you're going through this exact thing. Melissa, obviously small business owners do everything at their business. Do you want to give some advice on getting help with the trademark process? Yeah,
I mean, first, pull from your network, anyone you know. I asked a lot of favors from friends who, I had a friend of a friend who was grateful enough to be on the phone with me for a half hour at the beginning of this process. It was very daunting and confusing. But first I would definitely have a concrete logo before you apply for a trademark, because that's a mistake I made, where you get very excited, you start branding, and then you go for it, and any sort of slight tweak to your logo, you will need to refile and resubmit. And trademarking is highly specific. Even a slight color change on 0.02% of your logo, you will have to refile. So I'm one of those impulsive people that execute really fast. So I wish I slowed down, maybe 10 more seconds so I didn't have to refile. But I would definitely pull a lot of favors and ask your peers. You have a great resource you are watching right now, and Michelle speaks a very high level on this topic. And there's a lot of research out there on the internet. The internet has been a huge friend of mine during starting a small business.
Thank you. So Michelle, a lot of businesses don't have a lot of money to do this. So can you just give some advice on like how a really small business can do this?
So actually all the information is on the USPTO website. Literally they guide you how to do it. It's just a lot of reading. So if you have time, then you can go ahead and do that. And then I know me and a lot of my peers we have courses where we're walking you through how to trademark yourself at a very affordable price.
That's great. Dionna, if you were giving advice to somebody who was just starting out with this today, what would that advice be?
I would say seek guidance and advice as soon as possible. You can go to LegalZoom. You can look in your local community. There are oftentimes lots of organizations that are either filled with law students or just teams of lawyers who want to help, especially creative people. Here in Washington, D.C., it's WALA. I think it's WALADC.org. They were really very helpful to me. And I think Google is your best friend. But more importantly, just make sure you speak with someone who really knows what they're talking about when it comes to this process. I also should say that if you don't spend the money on the front end, you're definitely going to end up spending the money on the back end.
Right. Michelle, I have a question for you. How do you know if your logo or your name is too similar to someone else's, like Walmart and Yeezy, where they just filed a cease and desist from using the logo, which when I looked at it, I was like, wow, they don't seem that similar to me. So I was surprised that it could be just sort of similar and you could request that. So can you just talk about that? How close can you get to someone else's logo or trademarked brand?
It depends. So say that you can have the exact same name trademark as another company if you guys are selling two totally different things. So if we'll do Walmart, even though they sell everything, if there was another company called Walmart and they're selling legal services, then technically they may be able to coexist because they're not selling the same thing. You have to go into other things because Walmart is considered a famous brand, so they're more protected than maybe me and my business. But you can coexist with other trademarks. There's just so many factors and variables that you have to look at when you're doing this process. And that's why it's always just a good idea to kind of just talk to a lawyer, just because to see what their thoughts are, because they will do a basic search for you and they'll give you the information that you maybe need to make a better decision on filing.
Great, thank you. So we're going to go to the audience Q&A in a second. We have a lot of questions about this topic, but first we are going to do another poll. So audience, you can get ready to do that on the right-hand side of your screen. The question is, how much have you thought about protecting your own brand? And you can start voting now. I think that it's interesting. So taking the basic steps, just thinking about it, have extensive experience. So the vast majority of our audience is still in that process. And I think so. I'm glad that we're talking about this because I think it's an easy thing to overlook in the beginning because you think it seems premature because you don't know if your business is going to be successful. So I think that the advice from you guys has been great, that you should not wait and you should do it as early as you can. So let's go to the audience Q&A. Okay, so let's talk about, we talked a little bit, Michelle, about what you can trademark and what you can't, but can you just be a little bit more specific? You can trademark your company name, your logo. What else can you trademark?
You can trademark slogans. So just do it, like the Nike slogan. You can trademark colors. You can trademark packaging. You can trademark the shape of your product. So goldfish are a trademark, the crackers. The shape of the crackers are a trademark. You can trademark, what else is out there? Did I say colors? If I didn't, you can also trademark that. And I think those are the main ones. Oh, you can trademark sounds too.
Can you trademark a product name? So if it's not your company's name, but you have a specific name for a product?
Yes, you can trademark those too. Bath and Body Works has all of their stuff their names trademarked for their products.
Great. Another question for you, Michelle. If you put the copyright symbol on your website, does that legally offer you any protection, or do you have to file the copyright with the government?
So for copywriting, you have to file a copyright application to be able to sue in federal court for copyright infringement.
Okay. So I'm going to ask Dionna first and then Melissa. So if you get a trademark and then you slightly change your name, do you have to refile? I feel like one of you, so Dionna, was that you who said that you had to do that, or maybe it was Melissa?
That was Melissa.
Yeah, so you had to do that, Melissa?
Yes, I got really excited to have a logo, have a business. My old logo was completely different. We did a little bit of a brand tweaking and we changed the logo, so I did have to refile. So that's obviously to save yourself time, energy, and effort. But it's a balancing act. You don't want to wait too long either. And at some point, you just have to execute and go for it. But I would definitely be really thoughtful about the colors and the logo and be 98% certain that that's what you want. Otherwise, you will have to refile.
Thank you. Dionna, what lessons do you wish you had learned early on as a business owner, and what is the one lesson you can offer a new business owner on brand protection?
I would say to trust in yourself and your ability to do the work. If it's come to you, you have the ability to do it, and you should also believe that it's actually going to succeed. I thought the District of Clothing was just going to be a little side hustle. I never thought that 6 years later I'd be sitting here on the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, panel. And had I believed in myself and in the ability to do the work earlier on, I would not be dealing with some of the challenges that I am now, with the trademarks. And again, my suggestion would just be to move as quickly as you can with protecting your IP and with protecting your product or your service.
Yeah. Okay. That's good advice. Thank you. Michelle, if your business is a service, should you still apply for trademark protection?
Yes, you can apply for trademark protection for services, and I suggest you do it.
Okay. Melissa, you look like you were going to say something. So were you going to jump in on that?
Yes, protecting your business. I had the misfortune of my personal website, melissaboloña.com, the day it expired being taken. And the second someone puts a blog up there, it's very, very hard to get back. I do not have access to my own website. So make sure when you have a website, make sure it's on auto renew everything. I know it's not trademarking, but it's something really, really important to your business. And there are bots out there that will scan expiration dates to snap it up the minute it expires.
Oh, that's good advice for both your business name and your business URL and your personal one, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Michelle, can you trademark a recipe?
No, you cannot trademark a recipe.
Can you
copyright a recipe either? No.
Can you patent a recipe?
That would be a trade secret. So you can have your employees sign a contract saying that they're not going to give away your recipes, but that's as much protection as you're going to get. So it's more so things that you have to do on your own back end with your contracts.
So that's interesting because, I don't know a lot about patents, but you can have a utility patent, right? Which is a patent on how you manufacture something, like a unique way that you would manufacture. So it's interesting that you could have a patent on how you would manufacture something, but not on a recipe, which is kind of like manufacturing, right? It's taking parts and making something. So that's interesting. Right. But could you trademark the name of your recipe? You could, right?
You cannot.
Even the name of a recipe?
No.
I don't know about this. So let me see. Someone said, and I think it was Dionna, but maybe not. Someone said to spend the money up front because it's going to end up costing you later, even if you don't. Can you just be a little more specific about that? Like where you would have spent more up front had you known?
Yes, I would have gone through the process of trademarking immediately. And I don't know if I can say exactly how much that costs because I think it depends on the various nuances that you choose to try to trademark. But for me, I think initially it was maybe between $770 if I were to do it on my own, and maybe $5,000 with an attorney's assistance. And had I done one of those two, it would have been a lot less than what I'm spending now to get things, and moving in a better direction for District of Clothing.
Right. Michelle, this person says before they reach out to a lawyer, how can they research? Can they do their own research up front before they start paying a lawyer to basically make sure that they're not infringing on someone else's trademark?
Yep. So you can go on the USPTO website. They have their own search database, kind of like Google, and you literally just type in your trademark and see what pops up. I will say this, that search database is not that great. As far as, so if you leave off a letter, the trademark office will likely say it's a similar trademark to another trademark if there's something out there. But the actual search database will not bring that up. So you may not even know about it. So say, I'll use my name. If I spell Michelle with 2 L's, but somebody out there spells it with 1 L, that may not pop up on their database.
Got it. So speaking of cost, and I think, go ahead.
I was just going to add one more thing. I think it's really imperative if you happen to use an attorney to help you, that you do your diligence in making sure that you're using an attorney who is suitable to help you during this process with trademarks and who isn't just collecting retainer fees and sort of abandoning. And that's essentially what happened with me. My trademark process was abandoned by my attorney.
That's good advice. You want someone who specializes in this.
Someone who specializes in this, and someone who's going to take the time to, to really sort of walk through the process, the entire process with you. Yeah.
Thank you, Dionna. Melissa, we are just about at time. Do you have one last piece of advice?
Yes, to Deanna's point, you will spend more money later on if you don't do it early on. And I think I had a retainer of about $2,000 and I still have not used it all. It's obviously a big ticket item, but it's money worthwhile spent to have it done right. And as mentioned earlier, it's one of the things I did not do on my own. I did a lot of this legal stuff on my own, but trademarking, it just gets very, very complicated if you don't know what you're doing. So I do highly recommend finding an affordable lawyer that specializes in trademarking.
Thank you, Melissa. Last word for you, Michelle, before we wrap it up. What is your best advice to someone who's going to leave this event today and start thinking about trademarking their business?
I would say a lot of my colleagues are now on social media, so we are easily accessible, much more easily accessible than maybe, attorneys in past time. So follow us. We're always giving tips on on our platforms and discussing it. So we're out here. You just gotta know where we are. I'm on Instagram. Most of my colleagues are also on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok. So it was funny that you guys started talking about that. And I've gotten customers from there too. But yeah, we're out here. We're accessible, and don't be scared. We are regular people too. And I know a lot of times attorneys seem intimidating, but we're accessible.
That's great. Thank you so much. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you, Michelle, Melissa, and Dionna for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me again.
Thank
Great.
Okay. Thanks, you guys. And thanks to our event partner, Staples Connect, and our supporting sponsors, ADP, FedEx, MetLife, and Square, for helping us bring you this program today. Please join us for our next Roadmap event on Thursday, May 27th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We will focus on digitizing your business and have some tips and strategies for building the tech-savvy systems your customers expect. And we'll talk about ways small business owners can use automation and artificial intelligence in their day-to-day operations. In the meantime, check out Co, the website that I run for the U.S. Chamber, and we have resources curated especially for you located at the bottom of your screen, and they'll be coming to you in your inbox. And please let us know how we did today by taking our audience survey on the right side of your screen. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Co Roadmap for Rebuilding. Together we'll recover and rebuild. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.